Got a pile of Amazon packaging? Don't throw it out. This is junk journal gold. I'll show you 5 ways to turn plain brown packing paper into beautiful vintage style papers. I've watched so many tutorials on brown packing paper over the years, and after making and selling journals for about 5 years now, I've experimented with a few ideas of my own. It always amazes me how something so plain can turn into papers you'd never guess started as packaging. In this video, I'll show you how to create a peeled paint background and a fun white stamping technique that adds beautiful texture and depth. And make sure you stick around to the end. There's a bonus idea I think you'll love just as much. And if you enjoy these kinds of transformations, you'll definitely want to check out my next video on watercolor papers. It pairs perfectly with this one. Okay, so first up we're going to have a look at how to create this peeled paint finish. And I have just used some plain brown paper, packaging paper, and I have applied a technique which I'll show you shortly, and this is the result that we got. So very simple. And what can we use this for? We can use this as a cover element in our journals. We could use it as a base on a tag and then add extra embellishments, etc. We could use it just in so many aspects of our junk journaling. How did I create this? Well, first of all, I will give credit to Andy Skinner. He is someone that's new, that's come up in my videos, and I've watched a few of them, and he's just inspired me so much because he works with inks and stamps. So I'm going to link his video down in the description below, but I've adapted it that we can use it on brown paper packaging. So what we need is, you'll need some acrylic paints. So I've just used, you'll need a white as your base, and then whatever color you want to work with. These are just cheap acrylic paints, and this one is a mint color, but you could use pinks, you could use blues, greens, you know, it's whatever color palette you're working with at the moment. But I thought this would be a nice look. You're also going to need some Vaseline. Now, if you don't have Vaseline, you can also use furniture wax, but I had Vaseline, so that's what I used. And you may need, this is optional, but maybe have some corn flour or cornstarch on hand by. I've also got some like anti-chafing talc powder. The reason I like this is because it's got a, you know, handy little nozzle that I can just sprinkle over. And then you're just going to need a brush and a sponge applicator, or just a way of spreading it down. I just found that these two worked best, but this is what I had on hand. And then we're going to do a little bit of distressing. So I used the Distress Oxide Spray, Weathered Wood, and then we're going to look at some tea dye. You could use Vintage Photo, gathered twigs. I might even pull some gathered twigs down. Now, if you want to finish it, I did play around with some crackle glaze, but I decided it's probably, I mean, you could do if you wanted, and we're going to experiment. This is my prototype. I was really happy with how this worked out, so we're just going to play around. All right, so I'm just going to move this to the side. So the first thing that we're going to do is, or the first step, is we're just going to apply our base layer. So I'm just going to give a good little coverage of the acrylic white, and then I'm going to come in. I've got some water. Okay, so we're now just going to spread this across. Now, the reason I like using this sponge applicator is, see how it, when I do it up and down in these strokes like this, it kind of gives that wood grain appearance. I mean, you could probably achieve this with a brush as well, but I just found it easy to glide on. So we're going to just pull this up as much as we can. And bring it out to the edges. All right. So I might just turn this around. You always know I'm playing with mixed media when I have the Tim Holtz Tonic Studios base plate down. I've got that dry now, so now we're going to take our Vaseline and we're just going to put a little bit on our fingers. I've got this huge big tub that we've had forever. So I found that the secret is not to be too heavy-handed with this. So I've just got a little bit on my finger here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make some smears. Okay, now I might just get myself a little bit more, and I'm just running my finger down with the Vaseline on my finger, and I'm just randomly sort of putting it, but thinking about where I want this to be exposed. And what this is actually going to do is create a little bit of a resist when we put the next layer over the top. You'll see that I've got a little bit of coverage there now. Okay, I suppose the good thing about using Vaseline is that we can just rub it into our hands when we're finished. Okay, so now the next layer is, now we'll add our mint that I'm working with, and with a brush now I'm just going to, just following the grain that I created as my base, I'm now just going to swipe that up. And again, just creating that second layer. Now you can already see where the Vaseline is underneath, that it's starting to separate and it's giving you that sort of peeled paint sort of look. Can you already see where it's starting to, because it won't adhere, it's a resist, and so the paint is just, I'm not sure what the exact technique term is, I'm sure there is, but it's not able to dry, and so it's just spreading off where the Vaseline is, and it's revealing the underneath, and it's creating this sort of peeled paint look. Alright, so I'm going to now get my heat gun again, and I'm going to turn the volume down. Alright, now I think that has dried a bit quicker, but you can see now where the Vaseline is glistening that you're starting to get these textures that now start to resemble that peeled paint look. You know, place the paper towel on top and just pat it across, just to absorb as much of that Vaseline as you can without trying to take up too much of the acrylic paint. Okay, so I've had the paper out in the sun now for a while, so I feel that the acrylic has definitely dried, but I can still, I don't know if you can see if it shows in the light there, but you know, out in the sun I could still see that the Vaseline was on the paper. So now I'm going to go in with, this is just an anti-chafing powder, but it's got this like little sprinkle head. So I'm just going to apply some over the paper just to mop up any last bits of that Vaseline. And if you don't have something like this, then I would just suggest that you just get some corn flour and just put a little bit of it into a little bowl or a little container and just sprinkle it over. So then what I'm going to do is just use this to blot. Okay, so I'm going to come in with some Tim Holtz Distress Oxide Spray. I'm using the weathered wood. It says shake well side to side to ensure the dye and pigment. All right, so let's give that a good shake. Oh, I can feel, yeah, there's like a little ball bearing or something in the bottom there. So I'm guessing that's doing the job. So we're now just going to give it a bit of a spray. And I guess because it's an oxide, let's just add a little bit of water to that. Might just do a little bit more, focusing more on the white. So that's now come back as a nice grey. I've had that out in the sun for about, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's dried off a little bit. So I'm going to come in with some gathered twig. I might just run that across like so, just using my pad and just running it along where the white is. Okay, just come in and wet that, and now you can see it's reacting with the water. And I'm now going to go outside and let that dry. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I created, this is my Harry Potter journal, which I do have a video for, and I will link it up there for you if you would like to have a look at that. But this is the cover that I made. Now this has had over 10,000 views, this video, and I don't think I've ever done a process video on it. Now you don't have to make a Harry Potter journal. You could use this for any type of theme that you're looking for. You could use this, for example, for a dragon mythology. You could use it for woodlands, you could use it for Harry Potter, you could use it for fairies, you could use it for grimoires, you could use it for all sorts of applications. You could even use it for a masculine journal, steampunk. There is just so many ways that you can use faux leather in your journals, and that's just if you want to do a cover, not to mention how you could use it actually inside your journals. So this is the technique that I did when I created this cover. So I've got myself a piece of brown paper packaging. Now when I did the faux leather for the journals, obviously I wanted quite a lot, so I used this type of paper, the one that's got the serrated edge, you know, that you can tear it at the serration point. Now because I was new and just learning back then, I didn't realize that it would tear. I didn't think about that. And you can see here where it did split right at the seam, but I just made a feature out of it. So don't panic if things don't quite go to plan. You can always work around it. I believe that that's part of the artistic process. When things happen, how can I fix this? How can I make it look better? So an old book is going to have splits at the seams. So I just worked it, and I just kept adding glue, and I mean, obviously this is going back a few years ago, but you can see that I just went with it, and then I added some more Gilder's wax to it, and it's held up. I mean, this is a very old journal, and it actually used to be quite a big crocodile mouth, and over the years it has flattened. Don't ever panic when things don't go to plan. All right, so what do? First of all, we're going to crumple up, and I just put my thumb in it. I just made a tear, but I'm not going to worry about that. We undo it, perhaps carefully. We don't want to put another tear in it. But we're going to make this as part of a feature. All right, so there's where I put my thumb in it. Okay, so we're going to spread it out. Oh yeah, perhaps I might go through the materials to use for this. We've obviously got our brown paper, packaging paper. Now if you want to do a big long sheet of it, it's the same process, you just do a big long sheet of it. I mean, maybe if you wanted to, you could look at gluing the serrated edges, maybe run a little bead of glitter glue just to reinforce the serrated edges. Maybe you could stitch it together. Maybe that could end up being part of a feature of your cover. Or like I said, just go with it. Be careful, be gentle with it. And if it does split, you know, work with it if you can. We've got the brown paper packaging. Now what I used was glycerin. This is probably literally as old as when I made this. Expiry September 2021. Okay, so let's see how we go with that. If you don't have glycerine, you can use hair conditioner. You will need some water. So I've got myself a pot of water here. I've also got a jar of water which I'll use for mixing in a bit. And now you'll need a cloth or a sponge. I'm going to just go with this type of sponge applicator. I use these two, and these are literally still the two stays on ink pads that I used. So Ganache, and then I used Emerald City, and then I used some Gilda's paste wax Inca Gold. I mean, you've got Foundry Wax Gilded, or you've got Statue. I mean, I'd probably go with the Foundry Wax Gilded, or any other sort of metallic paint that you want. So we've crumpled it into a tight ball. We've unfolded it so it's full of texture and wrinkles now. So this is where we're going to make up our glycerine mixture. Now this hasn't even opened. It smells fine. I'm sure glycerine doesn't go off. It feels fine to me. So I'm just going to put in, I might double the batch. It's 1 part glycerine and 4 parts water. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of glycerine. And then I'm going to get some water. So that means I have to put in 8 tablespoons. So 1. All right, so we've got our mixture. Some of the water has spilt. That's fine. Okay. So now I'm going to take my brush and I'm just giving it a good mix. Now I don't exactly know what it does. I think it's called a humectant, and it conditions the paper, it adds moisture to it, and it does change the texture and the feeling of the paper. We're just going to spread that across. Give it a good old coat. Maybe I might do the other side just a little bit as well. And then we're going to crumple it again, because this time it's wet and damp. Okay, I'm going to very gently now unravel that. Okay, right, so we have got my crumpled piece of brown packaging paper that I put my thumb into it when I crunched it up. I'm going to do a follow-up video, guys, and I'm going to show you makes with these various techniques that I'm trying. But here we have it. So the paper definitely has changed feel. So I'm just going to scrunch it up one more time and lay it out. So now we've got this lovely crinkled piece of paper that now has another small tear in it, but that's completely fine. So we're going to get the Ganache pad. Now, if you've got dried out pads, this is going to be an excellent technique. Now, I haven't done this for a while, so hopefully I should probably practice, but I don't have anything to practice on, so we're going to go for it. All right, so we just hold that down and we just gently... Okay, so it was a little bit dried out, but what I did was I took my brush that had the glycerine in it, and I've just sort of tapped it over, and it seems to have done something. So we just take it across and we smear it. All right, so it looks like we are getting something. So I'm going to, it's probably not the ganache, but it doesn't matter. It's coming out sort of a grey. But what it's doing is it's picking up the highlights of the ridges, of the wrinkles. So I'm just working my way. This is very, very old, this stamp pad, so it's probably not surprising. Oh, I think the colour's starting to come. I could be imagining things, but let's keep going. Maybe I needed to just let it sit for a bit. So can you see as I'm rubbing it, I'm starting to get almost like that reptilian sort of leather look. And if you're anything like me, you've got supplies that have been sitting around gathering dust. I suppose the moral of the story is use your supplies. Oh, the green is working. Whoops, I just made another tear. Now, we don't want to go too much with the green because otherwise it starts to look like a lizard. But just a few highlights. You'll see that we're in the beginning phases of what we've got happening here. Archival ink sienna colour. So we'll see what happens with this one. Just very, very lightly. Now the reason I'm going for a permanent ink is because we're going to put a coating over this. So I don't want it to, you know, we can't use the distress ink because that's going to make it all run. All right, so I'm just going to put that outside now to dry. What I used on the Harry Potter was the ganache and the Emerald City, just a little bit, which you can see some green bits. I don't know if it's coming up on the camera, but there is some slight green bits there. And because they're a little bit too dry, I then went in with the archival, and I tried the sienna, which gave it sort of a nice, you know, bit of a reddish tinge to it. So I'm just going to pop this outside now to dry. Okay, so I've got my paper here. It's been out in the sun for about 10-15 minutes. Now I've got some Inca Gold here. I'm just going to spread that across. And just let it get picked up a little bit across the ridges there. Not too much. Got my piece of faux leather paper now. It's been out in the sun for about an hour, and I now want to seal this Joe Sonja satin varnish. It's a polyurethane water-based finish. You could also use Mod Podge if you want. This is the matte finish. So I've just got some packaging here, which I might just pour a little bit onto that's the cellophane. So I'm just going to come along now. Oh, lovely. Oh my goodness. When you put that on, it instantly sort of darkens everything a little bit, and it definitely pops the gold. So I'm just going to go over and seal. This is really good for journal covers as well. It protects your paper. So as I'm doing it, it's just making the creases and the wrinkles really show up. And it's sort of giving it another colour, which is now making it like a really lovely leather colour. we have the final piece of faux leather paper. It has an even bigger tear in it, but it is in my stash ready to be used for something. I've got a journal cover that I've made out of file folder, and this is where I'm going to plan on putting these papers, because I think if I fold them in half like this, they're going to fit quite nicely. I will have to trim the top, but they will fit quite nicely. So I have made a mark with my pencil there of where I would trim. So I got these little mini stencils from Amazon, and I thought what I would do is I will make 4 panels. So I've got 4 panels on each side, and I've picked out 8, so I'll do 4 on each side, as I just said. So I'm going to do a mixture of stenciling with some white. I've got titanium white acrylic paint, and then I would do some with texture paste, because I think white on the you know, the brown background really looks good. I am going to mark some panels off with some washi tape. Okay, so I've run a tape along the bottom, and then I've run a tape roughly across the top there. So then I'll run a tape in the middle, which I think would be roughly around about there. Run a tape, and then I'll do the same across here. Now, to try and secure it so it won't move, because this is a bit of an awkward angle, I'm trying to make it straight for the camera so you can see what I'm doing, but it's not straight for me, if that makes sense. I'm on a little bit of an angle here, but we will get there. Okay, and then I'll just secure this down. So hopefully, if I'm careful, this is going to hold. Now I might just put one in the middle there, and that can be just so I secure it. I have now got all my panels done, and now what we will do is have some fun, and I will get my first stencil and I will line it up. Now I'm not sure which is the right one there, so I think what we'll do is we'll go with that. Okay, so I'm going to get my white ink, which is brand new, and I'll just put a little bit of ink there and hold this down very carefully. All right, so I think that's going to work. I'll just use a baby wipe, but I don't want the ink drying on my stencil, and I'm just coming in, just carefully applying it onto my little applicator, and I'm just coming in. I'll pull that away, and there we go. Come in here now. Be nice to get that little bow in, and I've got most of the hearts in, so get that up. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so I've got my texture paste here. I've picked out my stencil. Everything's dried now. I did use my heat gun to dry everything off. So I'm just going to scoop up some texture paste onto my little palette. That might be too much. Let's have a look. Okay, so let's go. We'll peel this one back. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And it does look a little bit different. It's a bit of a different result to the white acrylic paint, and I like it. It actually looks, this one here actually looks a little bit distressed. I think I'm going to practice a little bit more on other bits of paper, because I think if you came in with different colors, such a, you know, like a uniball pen or something, and made marks, I think that would actually look really good. I think this type, I mean, I do like it, but I think these larger flowers are giving a nicer effect. All right, so let's try another one. I think we'll do it like so. Oh, oh, it just looks so beautiful. I can't wait to stitch around it and see how it looks. So I'm just going to finish these two off. I'll just time lapse this a little bit for you, and I will come back to you when we're all finished. Okay, so I'm going to take off the tape now, and I'm going to put this outside because I really want it to dry properly, and then I'll stitch and I'll make the pocket page. I'll cut it down and I'll come back to you and show you how that worked out. So here we have the finished piece. I've stitched the panels in. I used some gold thread. I have not made it into a pocket page as yet because I do think I might be able to write on the reverse side of that, so I'm going to leave that for now. I think this has turned out so beautifully that this could be a cover of a journal. So I think I will be making some more of these and featuring them on covers. Okay, so this next idea of how to use your brown paper packaging in your journals, I've again folded the piece of paper in half because I'm going to be using it in the journal that I plan to make. I have got the stamping platform for this one, so we're just going to open our stamping platform and place our piece of paper down there. Might just move that up just a tad. Okay, so I've secured it down with some magnets. Now I've got myself a cute little bunny stamp here. You might want to do something else, but I thought I would just put the bunny in the corner there, and that way when you come to the page you've got this cute bunny and you can do some writing with it. But this technique here, again, I saw this one from Andy Skinner and it was just absolutely gorgeous, and as soon as I saw it I thought, oh yeah, that would look so good on brown paper packaging. So what we're going to do, I have got my Ranger inks, I've got watering can, and then I've got my jet black. I have got some chalk paint. I've got eggshell. I don't have any white at the moment. It's going to, you know, it's in the post, but white would be really perfect for this, but eggshell will work as well. So just give that a good shake, and I've got some small brushes. I'll probably end up using this brush here because it's got a fine nib on it. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, we've got our stamp placed. So I'm just going to come in with the watering can and I'm just going to ink up the stamp. Okay, so I'm just going to place it down and just give that a little bit of an impression onto the paper. I always think personally every third or fourth page you should decorate. Now I've got a very fine imprint there. Yeah, so every third or fourth page I think is good to decorate. It gives you room for writing, and then when you turn over the page you get this lovely decorated page, and that page in itself can inspire you to write something, or it can just be just a lovely little element on the page. So I'm just going to add some of the chalk paint into my little container there, my little bowl. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've got this sort of very fine little print of the bunny rabbit, it's giving me an outline, and I can come in and I can now apply the chalk line, being very careful not to go outside the lines. So I'm just going to work my way around and very carefully I'm going to paint the entire rabbit this lovely block of white colour. Okay, so I dried that with the dryer and that does appear to be dry now. So I'm going to come in with my archival ink, my jet black. Okay, so we had to do that again because I got a misprint. The paper moved slightly while I was printing, so we don't want that to happen. So I've tried to put down some extra magnets, and I did have it double layer. I think that might have been part of the problem. So I have just inked up my bunny again. So I'll just give it a little bit extra ink. And fingers crossed this one will work now. Okay, so give it a little bit of pressure. Okay, so we'll lift it up. And there we go. You know what? I'm not going to stamp that again. I think that has, I mean, I could stamp it again, but I don't want to. But honestly, I think that when you look at that, you can see the beautiful little bunny there. So that is, we're going to leave it at that. And that is another idea that you can use. So as I say, I'm going to put these all together. And how effective does that look? Isn't that just lovely? So some other ideas I've been playing with, I've been using my stencils. These are with acrylic paint and they do give a sort of interesting sort of look. And I did these ones as well. I thought that if we could have that in the journal, and then when you open up the page, and if you can imagine, you know, say you had it like that, you would open up the page and you would just see that on that inside there, and that would make, you could do a bit of collage work, or you know, do some writing, or put a pocket in the corner. So I was just thinking I would just mark up some pieces. This one here, I was playing around with some, you know, vegetable bag, and I don't think I've got any on my desk at the moment, but you know, when you buy your vegetables and they come in that like little bag, and so I was just making marks on this. So I was just thinking what I might do is maybe add some flowers. Now again, I'm going to be trimming the top bit off I've got that on the other side there. So on this side, I might, in this corner here, I might get some texture paste and put a flower down here. So I've just got this old texture paste here that had dried up a little bit, and I added some water to it, and I added a few drops of glycerine, and it seems to have come good again. So I thought I'd try that and see if I manage to revive it. So I'll get some modeling paste or texture paste onto my palette, then let's see how we go. I mean, it's a bit lumpy. I'm not sure really that it's going to adhere. Let's see. Oh, it seems to be. I don't know. We'll see. Try a bit more. I think underneath it's a bit better, so let's go in there and scoop out a bit underneath. It's a shame, but you know, as I say, use your supplies. I'm just pulling it back very, very gently. Not bad, not bad. It's very thick actually. It's thicker than I would normally put it on, but I mean, I quite like that effect in the background there with that netting underneath, and then I will trim that top bit off. But yeah, I think that actually doesn't look too bad. All right, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you all what we worked with today. Actually, before I go, some ideas, because this is some craft cardstock that's got some patterns, and I thought you could mix those in. That all looks very nice. Something like this would be quite pretty, and you could, you know, maybe have that at the bottom of the top, complement those together. But I'll come back and we'll show you all the finished results. Okay, and so now for the bonus idea. This is a lovely little mini journal that I made many years ago. So one of the pages, how I decorated it was I just used some wrapping tissue paper left over, and I created a page. So I obviously had the base page, and then I glued the little vintage photo down, and then I took the packaging paper and I sort of adhered it to the top, but I tore it to create a frame, and then I just decorated it with these accents. So there's a lovely idea for you as a bonus idea. All right, so here they all are, my 5 brown paper transformations. It definitely wasn't all smooth sailing today. My ink ran dry, my texture paste turned into putty, but we improvised and I think we got there in the end. So this one here, this peeled paint one, absolutely love it. It's certainly the most dramatic, I think. I'm going to seal this later on. I love how the rock candy texture glaze has peeled back like that, so I'm hoping that when I seal it, that's going to make that a little bit more robust. And of course the faux leather, what started off as a little hole with my thumb has turned into a bit of a gigantic tear, but we do have a lovely piece of faux leather here, and I hope you enjoyed the process and to see the finish that you can get and experiment with different colors as well. This will definitely not go to waste. This will be used. So even with the few hiccups, we've got 5 really different looks from plain brown paper, and I'm calling that a win. So thanks guys for crafting along with me today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments which one you'd like to try first. I'll see you in the next one, and as always, have a jolly good time creating. Just come across. Maybe it's a bit too dry. Okay, so I've run, gosh, is that even straight?